Welcome to Cosmo Publishing. You just tuned yourself to the coolest place to learn all about self-publishing. We are a turnkey quality service provider, from interior formatting to custom covers and everything in between, including book marketing and advertising. It is the company that books a lot.
Hello, everybody. Welcome to the Cosmo Publishing podcast, where we talk about expanding your publishing journey with clarity instead of complexity. I'm your host, Gürhan, co-founder of Cosmo Publishing and Cosmodio Books. Today's episode is about audiobooks and why audio has become one of the most important formats for reaching new readers. Let's start with why Beyond Amazon matters. Most authors begin their publishing journey on Amazon, and for good reason. Amazon is visible, familiar, and often the fastest way to get a book into the world. For many writers, it becomes the center of their publishing universe. Over time, Amazon can start to feel like publishing itself rather than one storefront within a much larger ecosystem. This is where the idea of going beyond Amazon often creates resistance. Authors worry that expanding distribution means losing focus, losing control, or creating unnecessary complexity. Some fear that spreading a book across multiple platforms will dilute sales instead of increasing them. Others simply feel overwhelmed by the idea of learning new systems after finally understanding one. These concerns are understandable, but they are rooted in a misunderstanding of what wide distribution actually represents. Going beyond Amazon does not mean abandoning Amazon. It does not mean rejecting what works or starting over. It means acknowledging that Amazon is one powerful channel, not the entire market. Readers around the world buy books in many different ways, and limiting distribution to a single platform automatically limits who can discover your work. Reader behavior is not uniform. Some readers prefer Kobo because it integrates with their devices and reading habits. Others shop almost exclusively through Apple Books because it fits seamlessly into their digital environment. Many readers buy directly from Barnes & Noble, either online or in stores. Libraries and schools operate through traditional distribution systems that never touch Amazon at all. If your book is not available in those spaces, those readers simply never see it. Beyond Amazon matters because publishing is not only about selling to the most convenient audience, it is about access. It is about allowing your book to exist wherever readers already feel comfortable buying and borrowing books. There is also a stability element that becomes more important over time. Platforms change, algorithms shift, visibility rises and falls. When all sales depend on a single storefront, those changes have an outsized impact. A book distributed across multiple platforms is less vulnerable to sudden drops in one channel because other channels continue quietly in the background. Wide distribution creates balance. Instead of relying on one loud engine, you build several smaller ones that work together. Each may contribute modestly, but together they create steadier long-term momentum. Another reason Beyond Amazon matters is longevity. Many non-Amazon channels move more slowly, but they move consistently. Libraries reorder. Bookstores restock. International retailers surface books long after release. This kind of slow discovery is difficult to achieve when a book exists in only one ecosystem. For some authors, wide distribution also supports credibility. Being available through bookstores, libraries, and global retailers can open doors to speaking opportunities, partnerships, and professional recognition that Amazon alone does not always provide. Presence in these systems signals seriousness and permanence. It is important to say clearly that wide distribution is not mandatory. Some books perform best when focused. Some authors prefer simplicity. Some strategies are temporary. Going beyond Amazon is not a rule. It is an option. What matters is choice. When authors understand that wide distribution is about expanding opportunity rather than replacing success, the fear around it begins to fade. You are not taking something away, you are adding pathways. This episode is about removing the mystery around those pathways. It is about understanding what wide distribution actually involves, what it realistically offers, and when it makes sense for your book and your goals. Before diving into specific platforms, the foundation is mindset. Beyond Amazon matters because publishing is bigger than one storefront, and resilience is built through presence, not dependence. In the next section, we will clarify exactly what wide distribution means in practical terms and what it does not mean, so expectations stay realistic and grounded. First things first, let's learn what wide distribution actually means. Wide distribution is one of the most misunderstood concepts in modern publishing. For many authors, it sounds like a vague instruction to be everywhere, manage everything, and somehow make more money simply by expanding. In reality, wide distribution is far more specific, far more manageable, and far more strategic than that impression suggests. At its simplest, wide distribution means making your book available beyond a single retailer. That is all. It does not mean publishing on every platform at once, mastering every dashboard, or actively marketing in dozens of places simultaneously. It means allowing your book to exist in more than one ecosystem, so readers can discover it through their preferred channels. A key misunderstanding is the idea that wide distribution requires equal effort everywhere. It does not. Most wide authors still have one or two primary platforms where most sales occur. Other platforms contribute quietly in the background. Wide distribution is additive, not duplicative. Another important clarification is that wide distribution is not the opposite of focus. In fact, it often requires more intentional focus. You decide where your book should be available based on audience, genre, format, and goals. You do not expand randomly. You expand deliberately. Wide also does not mean losing control. Authors sometimes fear that distributing widely means surrendering pricing, presentation, or rights. In practice, you retain control over your metadata, pricing strategy, and formats. Distribution partners act as channels, not owners. Your book remains yours. It is also important to understand that wide distribution operates on a different timeline than Amazon-focused strategies. Amazon often rewards speed, spikes, and concentrated activity. Wide channels tend to reward consistency, availability, and long-term presence. Sales may start slowly, but they accumulate steadily. This difference in pace is not a weakness. It is a feature. Wide distribution builds durability. When one channel fluctuates, others continue quietly. Over time, this creates a more stable publishing foundation. Another misconception is that wide distribution only matters for international authors or large publishers. In reality, independent authors often benefit the most. Libraries, bookstores, and international retailers are actively looking for diverse, independent titles. Being available through the systems they use makes discovery possible. Wide distribution also supports different reader behaviors. Some readers prefer borrowing from libraries. Some prefer purchasing from local bookstores. Some prefer reading on devices that are not tied to Amazon. Wide distribution respects those preferences instead of forcing readers into a single funnel. It is helpful to think of distribution as infrastructure rather than promotion. Promotion creates attention. Distribution creates access. Without access, attention has nowhere to go. Wide distribution ensures that when interest arises, the book can actually be found. Another practical aspect of wide distribution is that it often relies on aggregators or central platforms. This means you're not necessarily managing every retailer individually. Files, descriptions, and pricing are often uploaded once and distributed outward. The complexity is front-loaded, not ongoing. Authors also worry about tracking performance across platforms. While reporting can feel fragmented at first, expectations should be adjusted. Wide distribution is not about daily monitoring. It is about long-term trends. Monthly or quarterly reviews are often sufficient. It is also important to note that wide distribution does not require exclusivity sacrifices in every format. Some authors choose to distribute ebooks widely while keeping print focused. Others distribute print widely while keeping ebooks exclusive. Hybrid strategies are common and valid. Wide distribution becomes especially valuable over time. Backlist titles often perform better in wide channels than new releases. A book that feels quiet on Amazon can become a steady library or international seller years later. Ultimately, wide distribution is about choice and resilience. It gives you options. It reduces dependency. It allows your book to exist in more places than one company's ecosystem. Understanding what wide distribution actually means removes much of the fear around it. It is not chaos. It is not loss of control. It is a strategic expansion of access that can be paced according to your comfort and goals. In the next section, we will focus specifically on IngramSpark, what role it plays in wide distribution, and how it functions differently from online retailers. Let's focus on something that you keep hearing, IngramSpark, and explain it clearly. IngramSpark is often mentioned in conversations about wide distribution, but it is rarely explained clearly. Many authors confuse it with a retailer, assume it works like Amazon, or expect it to generate sales automatically. Understanding what IngramSpark actually does and what it does not do is essential before deciding whether it fits your publishing strategy. IngramSpark is not a bookstore, and it is not a marketing platform. It is a distribution network. Specifically, it is the print distribution arm of Ingram, one of the largest book wholesalers in the world. When bookstores, libraries, schools, and academic institutions order books, many of them do so through Ingram's catalog. IngramSpark is the gateway that allows independent authors to place their books into that system. This distinction matters. Amazon sells directly to readers. IngramSpark supplies books to businesses and institutions that then sell or lend them to readers. The audience and the buying behavior are completely different. When a bookstore orders a book through IngramSpark, they are not taking a risk on an unknown author. They are ordering through a trusted supply chain they already use. That trust is one of IngramSpark's greatest strengths. It allows independent books to appear alongside traditionally published titles in ordering systems that retailers already rely on. However, presence in the Ingram catalog does not guarantee placement on shelves. Bookstores do not automatically stock every book available to them. They make decisions based on demand, pricing, discounts, and returnability. IngramSpark provides access, not automatic exposure. This is where realistic expectations become critical. IngramSpark works best for authors who understand that its role is infrastructure, not promotion. It makes it possible for bookstores and libraries to order your book. It does not convince them to do so. One of the most important concepts to understand with IngramSpark is discounting. Bookstores expect a wholesale discount, often in the range of 40 to 55%. This discount allows them to make a profit when selling the book. Authors who set discounts too low may find that bookstores simply do not order their books. Another key factor is returns. Many bookstores expect books to be returnable. This means that unsold copies can be sent back for credit. Returns carry risk for authors because returned books can result in costs. Some authors choose to allow returns to increase bookstore willingness. Others choose not to avoid financial risk. There is no universal answer. This is a strategic decision that depends on goals and tolerance. Pricing also works differently through IngramSpark. Because discounts are applied, authors need to price print books carefully to avoid earning nothing or losing money on sales. This is one reason print pricing often differs between Amazon and IngramSpark channels. IngramSpark is particularly valuable for library distribution. Libraries often order exclusively through established wholesalers. If your book is not in those systems, librarians may not be able to acquire it even if they want to. Wide distribution through IngramSpark makes library access possible. Another benefit of IngramSpark is international print distribution. Ingram has print facilities and distribution networks in multiple countries. This allows books to be printed closer to the reader, reducing shipping costs and delivery times. For authors with international audiences, this can significantly improve availability. It is also important to understand that IngramSpark is not designed for constant changes. Metadata updates, pricing changes, and file replacements are possible, but they should be done thoughtfully. Frequent changes can create confusion for retailers and complicate ordering. IngramSpark tends to reward authors who think long-term. A book may sell only a few copies per month through bookstores or libraries, but those sales often continue steadily for years. This slow consistency is part of its value. Many authors feel disappointed when they first use IngramSpark because they expect immediate results. That disappointment usually comes from misunderstanding its purpose. IngramSpark is not a launch engine. It is a distribution foundation. When used correctly, IngramSpark expands where your book can exist. It supports credibility, library access, bookstore ordering, and international print availability. It does not replace Amazon. It complements it. Understanding this role allows authors to decide calmly whether IngramSpark fits their goals. For some books, it is essential. For others, it may be optional or unnecessary. The key is clarity, not obligation. In the next section, we will look at Kobo, Apple Books, and other non-Amazon ebook platforms and how digital-wide distribution works outside Amazon's ecosystem. How about the other non-Amazon platforms like Kobo and Apple Books? When authors think about wide distribution, print often comes to mind first through bookstores and libraries, but the digital wide distribution is just as important and in many cases easier to implement. Platforms like Kobo and Apple Books reach millions of readers who may never browse Amazon, not because they avoid it intentionally, but because their reading habits are shaped by devices, geography, and ecosystems. Understanding non-Amazon ebook platforms starts with understanding reader behavior. Readers tend to stay within the ecosystems they are already using. Someone who reads on a Kobo device naturally shops through the Kobo store. Someone deeply embedded in Apple's ecosystem is far more likely to buy ebooks through Apple Books. These readers are not comparing platforms. They are simply buying where it feels seamless. Kobo is a particularly strong platform for international ebook sales. It has a significant presence in Canada, Europe, Australia, and parts of Asia. In some countries, Kobo partners directly with local bookstores, allowing readers to purchase digital books while supporting local businesses. For authors with international audiences, this creates discovery opportunities that Amazon alone may not provide. Kobo readers also tend to be loyal and consistent. Sales may not spike dramatically, but they often repeat over time. Many wide authors report that Kobo becomes one of their most stable ebook channels, especially for series. Once a reader starts a series on Kobo, they are likely to continue there. Apple Books serves a different kind of a reader. Apple users are accustomed to premium design, integrated experiences, and curated content. Apple Books emphasizes presentation, editorial features, and regional storefronts. Being featured, even briefly, can lead to meaningful visibility. Apple Books readers often respond well to clear branding, strong covers, and professional descriptions. Genres such as nonfiction, literary fiction, and personal development often perform well here, though genre fiction can also succeed with the right positioning. One key difference with Apple Books is pricing perception. Apple readers are often less price sensitive than Amazon readers. Discounts still matter, but premium pricing does not automatically reduce conversion. This makes Apple Books a valuable testing ground for pricing strategies. Another important aspect of non-Amazon ebook platforms is that they do not rely on the same algorithmic pressure. Amazon often rewards rapid sales velocity. Kobo and Apple Books tend to reward consistency, engagement, and regional performance. This means books can surface gradually without intense launch activity. Wide ebook distribution also allows authors to avoid exclusivity limitations. When ebooks are available on multiple platforms, you are no longer dependent on one system's visibility rules. This does not eliminate the need for marketing, but it spreads risk. Authors sometimes worry that managing multiple ebook platforms will double their workload. In practice, this is rarely the case. Most authors use aggregators to distribute ebooks widely. Files, descriptions, and pricing are uploaded once and sent to multiple retailers. Updates can be made centrally. Another benefit of wide ebook distribution is discoverability through libraries. Many library ebook systems pull from non-Amazon catalogs. When your ebook is distributed widely, it becomes easier for libraries to acquire digital copies, increasing long-term readership. It is also worth noting that reader reviews and ratings behave differently on non-Amazon platforms. They tend to accumulate more slowly, but often feel more organic. A smaller number of reviews can still influence purchasing decisions because readers are browsing in quieter environments. Genre plays a role as well. Romance, science fiction, and fantasy often perform strongly on Kobo. Nonfiction and business titles often find receptive audiences on Apple Books. Understanding where your genre naturally fits helps prioritize effort. Wide ebook distribution is not about replacing Amazon. It is about complementing it. Many authors still earn most of their ebook income from Amazon while benefiting from steady additional revenue elsewhere. Over time, those additional streams can become significant. Most importantly, non-Amazon ebook platforms support longevity. A book does not disappear after its launch window. It remains discoverable through search, browsing, and recommendation features long after release. When authors approach Kobo, Apple Books, and other ebook platforms with realistic expectations, wide digital distribution becomes one of the least stressful and most sustainable parts of publishing beyond Amazon. In the next section, we'll look at Barnes & Noble and the realities of physical retail, including what authors should realistically expect from bookstore availability. course, there are also physical retail realities like Barnes and Noble and more. For many authors, seeing their book in a physical bookstore represents legitimacy. Barnes and Noble, in particular, holds symbolic weight because it is one of the most recognizable brick-and-mortar booksellers. At the same time, physical retail is one of the most misunderstood parts of publishing, especially for independent authors. This section is about grounding expectations in reality while explaining how physical retail actually works. The first and most important thing to understand is that physical bookstores operate very differently from online retailers. Online stores can list millions of titles without limitation. Physical stores have finite shelf space. Every book that appears on a shelf has displaced another book. Because of this, bookstore buyers are cautious, selective, and risk-aware. Being available through Barnes & Noble does not automatically mean your book will appear in stores. Availability simply means the book can be ordered through their systems. Whether it is stocked depends on demand, regional relevance, pricing, and perceived risk. Barnes & Noble makes buying decisions at multiple levels. Some decisions are made centrally, others at the regional or individual store level. Local managers often have discretion to stock books that resonate with their community. This means local interest, author presence, or regional relevance can play a role in physical placement. Pricing and discounts are critical in physical retail. Bookstores expect wholesale discounts that allow them to operate profitably. If a book is priced too high or discounted too little, stores may choose not to stock it. This is not a judgment of quality. It is a business decision. Returnability is another key factor. Most bookstores prefer books that can be returned if they do not sell. This reduces risk for the store, but increases risk for the author. Returned books may result in costs. Authors must decide whether increased willingness from stores is worth that risk. Physical retail also moves at a slower pace. Books do not appear overnight. Orders are placed conservatively. Sell-through is monitored. Restocking happens only when demand is proven. This is very different from the instant visibility of online platforms. Another important reality is that physical retail often values credibility signals. Books that are professionally produced, properly distributed, and available through established wholesalers are taken more seriously. This does not guarantee placement, but it removes barriers. Authors sometimes assume that getting into physical stores will dramatically increase sales. In practice, physical retail often contributes modest but meaningful volume. Its value lies in visibility, legitimacy, and discovery rather than raw numbers. Being present in physical stores can support other opportunities. Speaking engagements, local events, media coverage, and institutional partnerships often become more accessible when a book is available through traditional retail channels. It is also important to understand that Barnes & Noble is not the only physical retailer that matters. Independent bookstores, regional chains, museum shops, and specialty retailers all exist within the same ecosystem. Distribution that supports one often supports the others. Authors who succeed in physical retail tend to think long-term. They understand that relationships matter. Local engagement matters. Consistency matters. Physical retail rewards patience rather than aggressive tactics. Another misconception is that physical retail must be a primary goal. For many authors, it is a secondary benefit rather than a central strategy. A book can perform well without ever appearing on shelves nationwide. Physical retail works best when expectations are realistic. Availability does not equal placement. Placement does not equal volume. Volume does not equal success. Each step has its own value. When authors approach Barnes and Noble and other physical retailers with clarity, physical distribution becomes less stressful. It becomes one part of a broader publishing ecosystem, not a make-or-break achievement. In the next section, we'll talk about how to manage multiple platforms without burnout and how to keep wide distribution sustainable over time. How about managing multiple platforms without burnout? One of the biggest fears authors have about wide distribution is burnout. And the idea of managing multiple platforms, dashboards, reports, and rules can feel exhausting before it even begins. This fear is valid, but it is often based on the assumption that wide distribution requires constant attention. In reality, burnout usually comes from overmanaging rather than from distribution itself. The key to managing multiple platforms sustainably is understanding that wide distribution is not a daily task. It is an infrastructure decision. Most of the work happens at the beginning, when files, metadata, pricing, and categories are set up. Once that foundation is in place, maintenance becomes minimal. Centralization is the first principle of avoiding burnout. Authors who attempt to manage every retailer individually often overwhelm themselves. Using aggregators or centralized systems allows you to upload files once and distribute them outward. This reduces duplication and keeps updates manageable. The goal is fewer touchpoints, not more. Another important mindset shift is letting go of constant monitoring. Wide distribution does not require daily sales checks across platforms. In fact, doing so often creates unnecessary stress because wide channels move more slowly. Monthly or quarterly reviews are usually sufficient to understand trends and performance. Looking for patterns matters more than watching numbers fluctuate. Consistency in metadata also plays a major role in reducing workload. When titles, descriptions, categories, and keywords are standardized across platforms, updates become simpler. Inconsistent metadata creates confusion, errors, and additional work later. Taking time to establish a clean, consistent metadata framework saves energy long term. Pricing strategy is another area where simplicity helps. Constant price changes across multiple platforms create confusion and increase workload. Wide authors benefit from stable pricing with occasional planned adjustments rather than frequent experimentation. Predictability reduces stress and maintains reader trust. Authors also need to accept that visibility will vary by platform. Some platforms may perform quietly for long periods. This does not mean something is wrong. Wide distribution is not about equal performance everywhere. It is about cumulative reach. Expecting symmetry leads to frustration. Batching tasks is another effective strategy. Instead of handling updates as they arise, group them into scheduled sessions. This could mean quarterly metadata reviews or semi-annual pricing evaluations. Batching turns ongoing maintenance into predictable, limited tasks rather than constant interruptions. It is also helpful to define a primary platform even when publishing wide. Most authors still have one channel that receives the most attention. Other platforms operate in support. This hierarchy prevents mental overload and keeps focus intact. Another common source of burnout is comparison. Authors see others reporting success on specific platforms and feel pressure to replicate those results immediately. Every catalog behaves differently. Genre, backlist size, pricing, and audience all influence outcomes. Wide distribution rewards patience, not urgency. Automation can also reduce friction. Sales reports, royalty tracking, and inventory updates can often be automated or simplified through tools and spreadsheets. Perfect tracking is not necessary. Reasonable oversight is enough. Finally, boundaries matter. Publishing wide should not consume your creative energy. Distribution supports writing, not the other way around. If a platform feels draining, it is acceptable to step back, pause expansion, or simplify. Managing multiple platforms without burnout is about design. When systems are intentional and expectations are realistic, wide distribution becomes quiet background support rather than a source of stress. In the next section, we'll talk about common mistakes authors make in global distribution and how to avoid decisions that create unnecessary frustration. As always, let's talk about the common mistakes. This time, we'll focus on the common mistakes in global distribution. And one of the most common mistakes authors make in global distribution is expanding too quickly without a clear strategy. Wide distribution can feel exciting, especially after hearing success stories, but rushing to place a book everywhere at once often leads to confusion and disappointment. Each platform has its own rhythm, audience, and expectations. Without understanding those differences, authors may misinterpret slow early results as failure. Another frequent mistake is assuming that availability equals visibility. Simply making a book available through global channels does not guarantee discovery. Distribution creates access, not demand. When authors expect immediate traction without supporting infrastructure, such as proper metadata, pricing alignment, or clear positioning, frustration follows. Metadata inconsistency is another major issue. Titles, subtitles, descriptions, categories, and keywords must be aligned across platforms. When metadata differs from one channel to another, discoverability suffers. Retailers and libraries rely heavily on accurate information to surface books correctly. Inconsistent metadata can cause a book to be miscategorized or overlooked entirely. Pricing errors also create problems. Some authors apply the same pricing logic used on Amazon to all platforms without considering local markets or wholesale structures. International pricing that does not reflect currency norms can make books appear overpriced or undervalued. Print pricing that ignores wholesale discounts can result in zero profit or blocked orders from retailers. Ignoring regional differences is another common mistake. Readers in different countries respond differently to pricing, formats, and genres. A strategy that works in one market may not translate directly to another. Global distribution works best when authors allow flexibility rather than enforcing uniform assumptions. Another issue arises when authors treat wide distribution as a replacement rather than a complement. Some abandon Amazon entirely without ensuring that wide channels are ready to support consistent sales. This can create unnecessary gaps in income. Hybrid strategies are often more stable, especially during transition periods. Impatience is one of the most damaging mistakes. Global distribution often works quietly. Sales accumulate gradually through libraries, bookstores, and international retailers. Authors who expect dramatic spikes may lose confidence too early and pull back before results have time to emerge. Over-monitoring is another trap. Checking multiple dashboards daily creates stress without improving outcomes. Wide distribution requires long-term perspective. Weekly or monthly reviews provide sufficient insight while preserving mental energy. Some authors also misunderstand the role of print distribution. Print through global wholesalers supports access and credibility, not mass volume. Expecting bookstore distribution to replace online sales often leads to disappointment. Physical retail adds presence and legitimacy, not instant scale. Another mistake is neglecting updates. While constant changes create confusion, ignoring outdated metadata or pricing can quietly undermine performance. Periodic reviews are essential to ensure accuracy and relevance as markets evolve. Authors sometimes underestimate the learning curve and give up prematurely. Global distribution is a skill that improves with experience. Early missteps are part of the process. Viewing them as feedback rather than failure supports growth. Finally, many authors fail to align distribution choices with their personal capacity. Wide distribution should support creativity, not consume it. When systems become overwhelming, simplification is not failure. It is strategy. Avoiding these mistakes does not require perfection. It requires clarity, patience, and respect for how global publishing actually works. In the next and final section, we'll step back and look at global distribution from a long-term perspective, focusing on sustainability, resilience, and intentional growth. Our first topic, a long-term global publishing mindset. A long-term global publishing mindset begins with understanding that distribution is not a tactic, it is a foundation. Short-term strategies come and go, but distribution decisions shape how your books exist in the world for years. When authors think globally, they shift from chasing immediate results to building durable access. Global publishing rewards patience more than urgency. Wide distribution does not usually create sudden breakthroughs. Instead, it creates many small, quiet points of contact. A reader finds your book through a library catalog. Another discovers it on an international ebook store. A bookstore orders a single copy. None of these moments feel dramatic, but together they form a steady current. This mindset requires releasing the idea that success must be loud. Some of the most stable publishing careers are built on consistency rather than spikes. Global distribution supports this by allowing books to surface repeatedly in different contexts over time. A long-term approach also means accepting uneven performance. Some platforms will outperform others. Some markets will respond faster. Others will take years. This variation is normal. When authors expect balance instead of symmetry, frustration decreases and clarity improves. Another important element is resilience. Publishing ecosystems change constantly. Algorithms shift. Retail priorities evolve. Reader habits move. When your books exist in multiple systems, those changes matter less. You are no longer dependent on one source of visibility. Global presence creates insulation. This mindset also encourages intentional pacing. You do not need to expand everywhere at once. Growth can be layered. One platform this year, another next year. Distribution becomes something you add to thoughtfully, not something you rush through. Global publishing also reframes backlist value. Older books often perform better internationally and through libraries than new releases do. A book that feels quiet in one channel may be steadily selling elsewhere. Long-term thinking allows these patterns to emerge. Another key shift is measuring success differently. Instead of daily sales, you look at quarterly trends. Instead of rankings, you look at reach. Instead of spikes, you look at longevity. These metrics align better with global distribution realities. A sustainable mindset also protects creative energy. When authors stop chasing constant validation, they regain focus. Writing improves. Planning becomes calmer. Distribution serves the work instead of dominating it. Global publishing does not require perfection. Mistakes will happen. Metadata will need correction. Pricing will need adjustment. Learning is part of the process. Long-term thinkers treat these moments as refinement, not failure. It is also important to align distribution choices with personal capacity. Not every author wants the same level of expansion. Some prefer simplicity. Others enjoy complexity. A global mindset respects individual boundaries. Sustainability matters more than scale. At its core, global publishing is about respect. Respect for readers in different places. Respect for different buying habits. Respect for the fact that books travel in many ways. When authors adopt a long-term global publishing mindset, distribution stops feeling intimidating. It becomes quiet infrastructure working in the background while creativity stays in the foreground. That is the true value of thinking beyond Amazon. Not more noise, but more reach. Not more pressure, but more stability. Not faster success, but lasting presence.
Welcome to Cosmo Publishing. You just tuned yourself to the coolest place to learn all about self-publishing. We are a turnkey quality service provider, from interior formatting to custom covers and everything in between, including book marketing and advertising. It is the company that books a lot.